The following conversation is between me and Nate Illingsworth. Nate has a social media account that is blowing up right now. It's hilarious. Lots of inside jokes for hunters, Western hunters, just hunters in general. Every time I look at his channel, it makes me laugh. But there's something deeper there, and me and Nate dive into that. We talk about his journey with weight loss, and we get into the nitty gritty of what worked for him. And honestly, guys, I don't have a good perspective on this, and I get asked about it all the time. I personally have never had to lose 100 pounds for an elk hunt. Nate has. What Nate's been able to accomplish on this front is proven. He's been able to keep the weight off for multiple seasons now, and he talks about how it's helped him become a better hunter. I know there's a bunch of you guys out here who struggle with this, so listen to Nate. Take some of the general concepts as tactics, but also motivation. It doesn't matter if you feel like you need to lose 30 pounds or 100 plus pounds for your next elk hunt. I think what Nate has to say has a ton of validity. I'm actually very surprised how detailed Nate got into the exact tactics, how he tracked his diet, how he tracks his fitness. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. All right, guys, so I wanted to mention that I'm having these custom skinning knives made. These are called Cliff Skinner. I've got a whole bunch of reasons why I've had this knife made the way that it's made. I've got a short video on the website. The details are there. Pursuitwithcliff.com. Click in the corner up by shop. You'll see Cliff Skinner. Click that puppy. You'll get all the details. All right, Nate. Super pumped to have you, man. I have to admit that your Instagram is probably one of my favorites in the last like 6 months or so.
You must not follow many people, dude.
No, I follow a lot actually, man. And the thing is like, I don't even say that from my own mind perspective. I know it's one of my favorites because your stuff, you know how the algorithm is. It feeds you whatever you stop on, and so your stuff is always there. And it's funny, Nate, because the way I would describe it, and this is the reason I wanted to have you on, is it's super funny, right? You just got to me, a great sense of humor. But the other thing is I feel like, and this is what I want to dive into, I feel like there's an element of, like it's almost like mission driven a little bit, right? Like you're trying to put some light on an aspect of hunting that I think needs it, you know, like to me, I would describe it, at least from my perspective, like maybe we should take ourselves a little less serious at times. And then the other thing is that, and this has happened a lot over my life, I guess, in my experience in the hunting industry, is a lot of the marketing and stuff has become so absurdly different than reality. You know what I mean? And so I think some of your stuff kind of puts light on that. I think it's a good thing. Plus, it's just funny, dude. So yeah, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no, dude, I really appreciate having me on. It's funny, like, dude, I don't know. When you started commenting on my stuff, like, you know, on Instagram, we'll show you like the priority likes and comments. So you started popping up, and I was like, holy crap, Cliff Gray knows who I am, dude. Because I've been watching your stuff like for a while, dude. Like, I remember I saw you on Joe Rogan, and then I was like, oh, dude, this guy makes just great content. And so, yeah, I've watched, like, I think your why 10% kill 90% video. I've watched that video.
Oh yeah, sure.
Dude, I have no clue how many times I've watched that video.
No, it's funny, man. That one pops up a lot. And what's weird is every hunting season, Nate, it rallies. You know what I mean? It you know, it goes flat, and then it rallies, and another 100,000 people or wherever will watch it. And dude, I have to say, it's a little painful to hear it when people bring it up to me, because it's one of the few videos that it took me basically the time that you see how long it is. I don't know how, it's like 30 minutes or something. It took me less than an hour to write down what I wanted to say, do it, and then edit it up a little bit. I feel like it's now one of my older videos, so I'm like, oh, I could have done it so much better. But it took me almost no time to do, and it's one of my most popular videos. So I'm like, oh man, it's like painful. I put so much more time in some of these other videos, but I feel like that one's just like basic stuff that it's the truth. You know what I mean? What works. So
which is a testament to like the value, the quality of the content too. I mean, it's not always, I mean, well, just my Instagram, like I don't like edit anything professionally or anything, but yeah, like your thing, I don't know. It's just like the value of the content in the video. It's not always the theatrics of the video or whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's not to like toot my own horn on it, but I think it comes from a good place. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's literally like, okay, hey, like I want people to know what at least I've observed that helps guys. You know,
Yep.
what make, you know, and that's the thing is there is this huge dispersion between guys that do really well and then guys that don't, you know, and there's like just these gaps and they're not easy gaps to to get through, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. And so and so I think that's part of the reason why they're not talked about a lot is because it's like they're kind of obvious, but they're just things that are just, you got to know a play, you got to know a unit pretty well. And
Yep.
it's like, well, it's obvious, but it is part of the reason why some guys do a lot better than other guys. So no,
Yeah.
man, I appreciate it, dude. But that actually leads me to my first question, Nate. And I get a lot of questions, dude, on
Mm-hmm.
weight loss and fitness for elk hunting. So I want to hear, your journey on that front, and I want to dive into like, this. You don't do a lot of this obviously on your Instagram or anything like that, but I'm gonna push you a little bit on it. Like I want to dive into like the nitty gritty, like tactical stuff that actually helps guys.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
let me frame that from the perspective, Nate, is I've done a little content to try to help guys, but it's really just what I've observed from people,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've always been a skinny little wiry guy. I've never dealt with being fat. It's just I just haven't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I feel like I don't really have great advice for guys. So first, to just let people know the journey that you went on that, and then we'll dive kind of into the details and see, try to talk about some stuff that might be helpful for guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been like fat like my whole life. Like not like I remember like, growing up, like we were just talking about what we ate growing up and stuff. And dude, we were eating Pop Tarts, breakfast
Sure.
cereal, fish sticks. We hunted growing up, so we'd eat. But it's funny. So my mom's Mexican, and everyone hears that, and they're like, "Oh man, that makes sense why you're fat." And it's like, dude, well, my mom wasn't the best cook, dude. So we were eating like I remember we'd eat like back straps of a deer, and the way my mom would cook it is she'd cut them up and then put them on a cookie sheet with no
Yeah.
seasoning and put it in the oven, and then you'd get your hockey puck and you
Sure.
just douse it in enough barbecue sauce to where you didn't taste that it was deer. So we just didn't eat good, and like I just didn't know like anything about it or whatever. I was just fat growing up, and I remember I tried some stuff to lose weight a little bit. I lost a little bit of weight, and then my wife and I got married. I skipped over a bunch of stuff, but my wife and I got married, and we moved down to Texas. And my job, I was working a bunch, and I was driving like 2.5 hours to work one way.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was I was just in the car all day long,
Sure.
and I was like, okay, well, I don't have time to make lunch. I got to leave. So let me go just to Bucky's gas station and grab a brisket sandwich. And then oatmeal cream pie works its way in there. And then a Coke works its way in there. And then you drive down to the next gas station, and while you're getting gas, you're like, well, maybe I get some chips. And then, before I knew it, I mean, and it sounds crazy, but before I knew it, I was 300 pounds. And
Yeah.
the thing that blows my mind is I was 300 pounds and I was still going to the gym every day too. Like that's
Oh, okay.
so, I can talk about that. We can go more in depth on that if you want, but I think that there's a huge difference between like working out and actually training. So I was going to the gym. I got up to 300 pounds, and then since I had so much car time, I started watching a lot of YouTube, and then I started watching these archery elk hunts, and mainly I was just watching Dan Staton, and I was like, wow, this elk hunting thing is really cool. And I grew up hunting, but the hunting we did, like the last elk I shot was like, I don't know what the statute of limitations is on this, but I was sitting in the back seat of a pickup and I shot an elk
Sure.
just out of the window, and so um, we weren't
dude,
like,
dude, I have to laugh, Nate, because I have a video that I posted of shooting. I shot a cow like a week ago over the hood
uh
of a truck, and
yeah.
every comment is about how I'm breaking the law. Like people have no idea where I'm at. They
Yep.
have no idea, if that truck's on a pavement or whatever, and they're
Yep.
just like, it just when you said that, it made me laugh. Like people draw such absurd conclusions on this stuff,
Oh,
but
I know. I got so I posted a video fishing in Alaska a couple years ago. And it was like before I ever like was on Instagram or anything, I just randomly posted onto TikTok. Like I didn't have any followers or anything. And I posted
sure.
this video and it took off. because it's me like flossing salmon out of it wasn't a river. So what it was is we were in this bay, and then at low tide, it kind of created a little stream. So we were flossing them
Okay.
out of this little stream, but it was in the ocean. And I remember one day I was at work, I got a call, and this guy was like, "Hey, this is Trooper George with Alaska State Troopers. Is this Nate Illingsworth?" And I was like, "Yeah, how'd you get my number?" And he was like, "We have our ways. I knew how to catch you down." And then he like gives me all like my info. He's like, "Do you live at this address? You got this phone number? Is this your LLC?" And I was like, "Holy crap, dude, you really do know everything about me."
Yeah, sure.
And he was like, "I need your exact Onyx pin of where you were because I know you were flossing out of a river." And so I showed it where we were and stuff. And he goes, "Oh, nope, no, I know where you were. You're good." But I had gotten reported a ton, I guess. But yeah, that's funny. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I got pretty super fat. Like I was 300 pounds. I started watching this elk hunting thing, and I'm like, dude, I kind of I want to go do that. Like that's sick. That's a lot different than the hunting I did growing up, where we had it really nice. We just drive out to an alfalfa field and just shoot a deer, and that was
Sure.
it. And so
Which, by the way,
I
there's nothing wrong with that type of hunting either.
yeah, that's we just did that. I just did that on Saturday. my wife
Yeah, I
my wife
gotcha.
killed a really nice mule deer.
Sure.
But we yeah, so I started watching all this stuff. I decided to go get a bow, and then I went to Colorado because I literally hopped on Google and I was like, "What's the state with the most elk and easiest tags?" It was like
Sure.
Colorado's got 250,000. So I'm thinking in my mind, it was so funny. I was like, "Dude, this is gonna be so easy. There's
Right.
gonna be elk everywhere." I didn't know like a thing about like archery elk hunting, and especially in a place like Colorado. So I went out
Sure.
there and we just got our teeth kicked in. It was super fun, but it was just brutal. I mean, crossing over deadfall and just hiking at 10,000 feet, especially from living in Texas, but then
Right.
also being fat. Like the whole thing was just brutal. Like you can see, there's a video on my Instagram. My gut was like over my belt, like when we're walking around out there. So it was just tough. And I remember driving home, and I was like, it was just like that feeling of like, wow, I'm gonna do that forever. Like
Yeah, I
I
gotcha.
wasn't good at that. I didn't like we saw some elk on private, and that was it the whole time we were there. And I was like, man, like that's my thing. I'm just gonna do that. And so I haven't had much interest in picking up a rifle since then. Um,
Hmm.
but I've just been doing the archery thing, and it kind of clicked. That really made it click in my mind. If I want to do this forever, I'm gonna have to figure out my health because I was on a bad path. Like it's not like you stop at 300 pounds and you're like, okay, I'll just be here. The
Yeah,
habits that
sure.
get you to 300 are the same habits that get you to 350 to 400, and then before you know it, you just can't enjoy life. You're in
Right.
the motorized scooter at Walmart, and you can't even walk around the grocery store. And
Right.
so I
And and,
realized I
and
needed.
on this hunt, Nate, this first hunt, you were 300 pounds when
Yep,
you went.
yep.
How tall are you?
Five. I'm five. I'll tell you, I'm 5'11", but I'm really like 5'10" and a half.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're basically the same height. So you're me with an extra. You were me with an extra 130 pounds.
Hmm.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's the reason I dwell on it, Nate, is there's so many people that like that right there should be kind of motivating to them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that are 300 pounds or maybe they're 350 pounds or whatever. Doesn't really matter. And their perspective is, I'm not even gonna go until I figure this out. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, they never figure it out.
Yep.
And then they never go. So yeah, I just want to point out that like, dude, it's pretty sweet that you took it on. You know what
Well,
I
dude, I
mean?
just think like, yeah, I mean, like, dude, when you're that big, like, you're just limited on stuff. Like, getting in and out of your car sucks. Like, I mean, not to get like super super graphic or anything. Like, you can't like sex sucks with your wife. Like, you don't
Sure.
connect physically. Like, you get winded doing just basic things. Walking around makes you tired. Your joints are tired. Like everything about it. Going and buying clothes sucks because then you have to buy the 2XL t-shirt, but sometimes they don't have your style in the 2X or whatever. And it's just
Right.
everything sucks. And I think like that so many people are just. I don't know if it's society or what, but there's a lot of people that are just going through the motions like that, and we'll get into the specifics, but the changes aren't that tough, and especially when you're that fat, like at 300 pounds, dude, it's like, okay, well, cut out Bucky sandwiches, you're gonna drop 10 pounds in a month. Like you get
Sure.
the ball rolling pretty easy. So yeah, but going out and doing it, like I was definitely nervous to go to Colorado, especially from living in Texas. But then I don't know, it was bad, but it probably wasn't as bad as I had worked it out to be. And that's one of the things about hunting is that I think that, or whatever it is for you, right? Like for me, I just love hunting. I love being out in the outdoors.
Sure.
But and most of your listeners, I'm sure, are going to be hunters. But if you're not, like, dude, maybe your thing's pickleball, or maybe your thing is like whatever it is. There's nothing that you could do that is not going to be enhanced drastically by you becoming fit.
Yeah, sure. And then also it like those things being a catalyst, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes sense, right?
Yep.
Like your story and Nate, like I can't tell you how many guys, dude, like over the years of guiding that one of the benefits of them booking a hunt, 12 months ahead of time or 18 months ahead of time is
Yeah.
they made it a goal,
Hmm.
to lose some weight. And
Oh
it
yeah.
was like the motivator, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's just like signing up for an ultra marathon or whatever it is, and you're like, oh crap, I have to train. Like I have this
Yeah.
thing in front of me. It's yeah. That's cool. That's really cool.
But and sorry, man, I didn't mean to knock you off your story.
Oh no, you're good. Where oh yeah,
Yeah,
so I
go ahead.
started so the thing that so then we after hunting season, I was milling around a little bit, kind of like I don't know, I was like whatever you do, drag your feet. And then we went on this vacation. I was looking at pictures of myself on the beach in Hawaii and I was like, "Oh dude, this is really bad. Like I really have to start something." So, that was like the same time like Elk Shape does the December Chub Challenge, he calls it every year.
Okay.
So people it basically is like he does like workouts and like challenges and stuff for the month of December, and you just kind of participate and try to win stuff. So I did that, and that really helped me get the ball going to go into the next year or the new year, because that's one thing is like so I mentioned this a little bit ago, but I was working out the whole time I was fat. Like I've got a video of me at 300 pounds benching 315 for multiple reps. So I was pretty
Yeah.
strong, but
Yeah.
I wasn't intentional with my training at all. And I think that like that's huge. Like guys can go to the gym, and you can go to the gym and do whatever you do at the gym and waste an hour, but becoming intentional with your training I think makes a huge difference in your fitness. And having a goal, I think like what you just said, that's huge. Like if you can set a goal of, hey, I want to do this thing, then that makes the training kind of fall into place a little bit easier, and you can be a lot more intentional with your time. But yeah, I just started in December really working out, and then I started trying to figure out how to track macros and start getting my diet under control. And then I just kind of carried that on through the year. I lost let's see. So I went from 300 to like 250 that year. So I lost about 50 pounds. And then going into 23 or 24, going into this year, I signed up for an ultra and ended up gaining 10 pounds at the beginning of the year. Um, just with ultra training, like you're eating so many carbs and
Oh,
fueling
I
and stuff.
got you. Yeah.
So I gained a little bit of weight going into that. And then I've just been chipping away at it, and I'm down to I weigh like 226 right now. And the goal
Yeah.
is to keep chipping away at it. I want to get down to like probably like 195, 200, I think is where I'll try to live.
Sure. Yeah, which makes sense if you're like a strong guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm 6 foot 170, but I'm skinny. I probably should be bigger. But yeah. So you gain. So you or excuse me, you lost all that weight. So primarily both diet and training. And so let's put this in the perspective of like all the guys thinking about a hunt. Like a lot of guys are done. They're done archery hunting, or maybe they're rifle hunting right now, but pretty
Yeah.
much the season's over. So a lot of guys are already thinking about like, man, I got my ass handed to me during archery elk season. How do I get prepared for the next year?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the diet deal, and you mentioned training and like intentional training. I want to dive into that, but so we'll do that second. On the diet thing, but
Hmm.
is there what did you try in particular, Nate? I do very few endorsement deals, and I do no paid reviews because it would affect the type of content, quality of the knowledge I could put out. So an important part of my business model is my membership group. I'll stick a link right here where you can sign up. There's paid and free options. I do a weekly live stream there. There is a thriving community of folks that are helping everybody become a better outdoorsman. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're an expert, there's something there for you. Go join, guys. It helps me out a ton. It's the way to support this content and to support me. I'll see you there.
So I'm like really this is like something I'm super passionate about. Like
Sure.
everyone tries to reinvent the wheel with diet, and there's all like you can do keto or you can do carnivore, or you can do paleo or whatever it is. But I think like you got to think about food as fuel, and think about you really have to change your relationship with food, because you're fat for a reason. And if you just think about it like really basically, you are fat because you have too much extra energy on your body. Food is just energy that you are consuming, and you've consumed too much of that, so your body is storing it. So
Right.
naturally, you're just going to have to eat less than what you're burning. So, like the I think the simplest way that everyone can do, and if you're listening to this, like I would just pull out a pen and paper and write this down, and like this is what you should do to build your diet, is go on to a TDEE calculator, a total daily energy expenditure calculator, and then that's going to have you put in, I work out 4 times a week. My body fat percentage is this. And to get the most accurate, you're going to need to know your body fat percentage. The easiest way to calculate that is just to go down to a GNC, or most gyms have one of these. It's called an InBody scan. It's not perfect. It's not like a DEXA scan, but you can stand on this thing and grab it, and it'll tell you your body fat percentage. But put that
And
in.
it's that's way better than like BMI or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so yeah, put that in. It'll put your weight, your height, and then you work out 3 times a week. And let's say you have like an active job, you can put that in there, or your sedentary job, you put that in there. Put all your stuff in, and then that's going to spit you out a number. It's going to be like, I don't know, whatever, 3,500 calories or something, 3,000, depending on how active you are. Let's say 3,000 calories, and that 3,000 number, you're going to say, okay, so right now, with everything I do in a day, my body is burning 3,000 calories a day. So in calories, you need to think, so every 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat from your body. So if your body needs that energy, you need to eat 3,500 calories less than what you burn, is going to result in 1 pound of fat loss. So if I
Sure.
was looking at that, I'd look at my week and I'd say there's 7 days in a week. If I burn 3,000 calories a day, if I eat 500 calories less than that, if I eat 2,500 calories a day, I'm going to burn I'm going to burn about or lose about a pound of fat a week. So you can play with that too. Like what I'll do is I'll right now I eat about 2,000 calories a day, but I probably burn like, I don't know, I probably burn over 3,000, 3,500 with all the stuff I'm doing. But I'll eat right around 2,000, and that's the other kicker too, is I think you need to play with your numbers, but that gives you a really good way to start. So start at that. Let's say you want to lose 2 pounds a week. If you're burning 3,000 calories, you need to eat 2,000 calories a day. And then what you eat matters. So the way that I like to approach the macronutrients, if anybody doesn't know what a macronutrient is your way you break down your food. You got fats, carbs, and protein. Those are macronutrients. The way that I like to construct a diet, so let's say you're eating 2,000 calories, you need to eat the most important macronutrient is protein. You need to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need to eat 200 grams of protein a day. That's just like your gold standard. You always need to hit that. Now, you can do it off a lean mass. So like if you're 300 pounds and you're trying to get down to like 220, you don't need to eat 300 grams of protein. You can
Right.
eat 220 grams of protein. And then what I do is I'll usually I will go a little bit lower carb, just because I feel better when I'm eating lower carb. And I know I'm losing more weight, but everyone's different on that. Maybe you can eat high carb, super low fat, super high fat, low carb. Fats and carbs you can play with. But the thing that you need to know when you're losing weight, you're eating less food, so you're going to be hungrier. Carbs are 4 grams or 4 calories per gram. Fats are 9 calories per gram. So if you're trading more fats for carbs, you're going to be eating less food through the day. So it's not going to be as filling throughout your day. So you're probably going to be hungrier eating more fat. And then that's kind of like how I like to play with it. Um,
Right. So my question's on that, Nate, because I know this is what a lot of people run into. Like, how do you deal with the discipline of like cravings or like on one side, like the I guess it'd be like the demand side, I guess, like the
mhm.
cravings you have because you're depriving yourself of calories or you're running like a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And then on the other side of that, how do you deal with a lack of energy if that's if that's a symptom of this?
Yeah, it totally is. So the discipline thing, you just have to be committed to yourself. Like you have to know. So my thing is like oatmeal cream pies. I love oatmeal cream pies like nobody you've ever met. Like
Right.
I know for a fact I could go to a grocery store right now and buy the big box, the 18 pack, and eat the whole thing before I got home. And
Sure.
I just love that. But you have to think in your mind like, okay, well, what'd you have for dinner tonight?
Yeah. Tonight, well, actually, I haven't eaten yet.
Okay, what'd you have for dinner yesterday?
Yeah. So yesterday I had an elk round steak, um, and then I had a salad. So I just to preface this, Nate, like
Yeah.
I'm pretty much on a carnivore diet. Like,
Okay.
well, we can get into. I mean, I have some thoughts on that too, and um, one thing I'll tell you is that I'm like getting back on it because when I'm guiding, to this day I cannot stay on it. If I
Yeah.
particularly if I go, and it's kind of analogous to what you said, and maybe this can frame it into this challenge that I know a lot of people have, like with the travel you mentioned. If
Hmm.
I'm in a hunting lodge and I'm eating their food,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to stay on my diet. Like
Oh,
very
yep.
difficult. It's almost like a social pressure that's actually kind of hard to deal with.
Yep.
And we can dive into that more. And then if I'm backpack guiding or anything, just from a practical standpoint, it's kind of hard to stay on the diet that I
Oh,
have.
totally.
But and not to throw you off track, but I do know I have a fair amount of, or some of my audiences does the carnivore thing too.
Hmm.
I think that one thing you mentioned, or one kind of topic we're getting around, why it works for a lot of people, Nate, is that it's still calorie. It's still, I mean, the math is still the same.
Yep.
It's just that when you're on a carnivore diet, it's really hard to eat too many calories.
Yep.
That
Yep.
it's very hard just mathematically. I mean, dude, if I threw 3,000 calories in front of somebody that's white bread and ho hos and that stuff, most
Yeah.
people can do that. Or like,
Yeah.
that the example is like sitting down at a Mexican food restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
I can
Yep.
eat 2,000 calories of chips before I even get dinner,
Yep.
you know? But dude,
Yep.
if somebody puts 2,800 calories, 3,000 calories of ribeye in front of you, like it's a shitload of meat,
Hmm.
you know? So,
Yep.
but anyways, I didn't mean to get off track, but I guess what I'm saying is like what I personally do on my diet, I don't think is very much different than what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and so my thing is like, so if you think about like what you had for you're not still thinking about dinner. Like it took you like a minute to think about what you had for dinner last
Oh
night.
yeah, no,
Like
yeah,
you didn't think about that all day, like how good that dinner was, dude. And you don't like if you go eat like shitty food, you're not gonna think about that shitty food 10 minutes after you ate it. So you got to think about the only hard part about it is the pre-decision of like, okay, I'm gonna stay disciplined right now. And then once you make
right,
that easy decision, or that hard decision, everything else is easy because you're not still reflecting on like how good the rolls were from Texas Roadhouse 2 weeks ago.
right, yeah, yeah,
So
sure,
that's
sure.
been
I mean,
one thing. Like,
you're basically saying it's like a willpower. Like
yeah,
you just have,
yeah,
yeah, you just have to like say this is a priority.
yep,
Before we move on, dude, for the guys that are listening, and I know there's a lot of them because that's a lot of the podcast stuff they're consuming it this way. They're driving a
yeah,
lot. How you were saying, did you have to deal with that? How did you
yeah.
deal with that?
Yeah, well, and I still do. Like I'm on the road all the time. Like I last week I was in Dallas, Texas for like 2 weeks. I'm going back on Wednesday this week. I'm headed back to Texas, so I'm still traveling quite a bit.
Sure.
It's so same thing. It's like I'll go to I still eat from gas stations all the time, like constantly. But when I go
Okay.
into a gas station, I'm eating like chicharrones or
Yeah.
um I'll go grab like whatever the lowest sugar jerky I can get is. And it's more expensive, but it's just those decisions that you have to do. Like,
Right.
I was listening to this guy the other day and he was talking about how you wouldn't just cheat on your spouse and say, oh, well, I cheated on my spouse. Today was a cheat day. And it's the
Right.
same thing like with your diet. It's like, okay, well, yeah, it's hard to make those decisions at the gas station, but like chicharrones are freaking good. Like I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
it's the same thing as eating chips, but you're eating
Yeah.
something that's good for you instead of the chips. And then
Right.
the energy thing. Sorry, I definitely think like I mean you're definitely gonna be lower energy when you're in calorie deficit. Um, I just drink caffeine. I drink way more caffeine, and I think
Sure.
everybody I know that has lost weight gets super into caffeine when they're losing weight.
Oh,
Um,
really? That's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's like a thing, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that I've talked to that are like, "Yeah, I just drink a lot more caffeine." So, I don't know. It's probably that's probably not good for you either, but
Yeah. Yeah. No. 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 But yeah. But I mean, if it allows you to sustain the weight loss,
Yeah.
well, you don't. I guess the thing is, you don't need it to sustain the weight loss. You're talking about just losing weight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
like, I think just more caffeine will kind of help you just be more mentally focused and stuff since you're not eating the calories. You need to get the energy from somewhere.
right, right. So, on the food choice stuff, man. What are your like you said the chicharrones or whatever, which I
Hmm.
eat those too. Like that's like the exact. It's funny you say it. Like if I go into a gas station and I got to get a snack because whatever, it's like I haven't eaten all day or
Yeah.
this stuff happens. It's just a reality. And I don't think people talk about this shit enough because if you're working, in my case guiding, in your case traveling for work or whatever, sometimes you just have to eat. You can't
Yeah.
like go like in my weird diet world, you can't just go get a ribeye somewhere.
Right.
It's not like you just can't, right? So I'll go in and I'll like get like chicharrones. Maybe I'll get like almonds,
Hmm.
and I'll get the almonds that have all the bad shit on them too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like all the oils and all that crap. Just because I eat them, they taste good.
Right.
So I'll get those. Like and for me, I generally just like I basically stay away from carbs, Nate. Like
Yeah.
what do you what's your like is what's like your rule of thumb?
Yeah, so I just try to keep my carbs under my proteins usually.
I
Um,
got you.
that's just how I approach it. But then I don't know, because I don't like, I'm not super scared of carbs either. Because I use the carbs to fuel the training. Like if I'm running, if I know I'm gonna have 30 miles in a week, I know I'm gonna need to eat carbs. But one thing that I always try to do too that I think helps is the quantity of meals and then the timing of the carbs. Like if I go eat a huge bowl of pasta right before I go to bed, like I know everybody says it doesn't matter if you eat your carbs at 8 or if you eat them at 6 in the morning. I don't really believe that. I think it does. Like if you just got to think about it as energy. If I eat more carbs during the day than I do at night, I'm going to use those carbs. So I'm going to be working out or walking around or doing something during the day where I can use that energy and convert those carbs to energy. But if I eat a huge plate of carbs at night, then I'm not. It just sits there. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure. Yeah, so this is interesting, man. Like you on the diet deal, it's not like you've bounced around a bunch of diets. You've
Mm.
basically just simplified it by you just can't eat as much.
Yeah, and if there's like some days where I'm like, dude, I want to have I don't whatever it is, like Scandinavian swimmers from Trader Joe's. You ever had those?
No,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
are
you,
they?
you, you probably wouldn't. They're not carnivore. they're,
What are they?
they're like Swedish fish if Swedish fish were good. Like
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're really good.
I like Swedish fish, man.
Oh, you'd love
Um,
these, dude. It's
oh,
so funny.
okay.
My wife and I always joke. We don't buy them because every time she does, I eat the entire bag, and it's like a big bag. And she goes, she'll always be like, "What? Did you eat the whole bag?" And so the joke is, I have a condition that if you buy them, I'm gonna eat the whole bag. It's just I can't help it. It's just what it is.
But
But
dude, yeah,
like,
go ahead, finish your thought.
but what I'll do is like I'll budget those in. So like I'll track everything. I track everything. Like
Yeah.
if I want to go get an ice cream, like tonight, if I wanted to go to Dairy Queen, I'll save enough carbs through the day where I can go grab an ice cream. Then I'll go on a walk after I eat the ice cream to just kind of help like level out my blood sugar or whatever. But like I'll save that in there. So that way I can be pretty sustainable with it. But because of that, I haven't bounced around much. I've been pretty consistent with what I do. But I've just kind of learned what works for me. And that I actually tried carnivore for a little bit. I did like a month. I went super strict carnivore for a month, and it just wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I gave it enough time, but for me, I feel the best when I'm eating lower fat, higher protein, and then keeping my carbs pretty moderate.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I've got tons of buddies that I've gotten onto the carnivore diet who are like
Hmm.
gigantic advocates of it now.
Yeah,
Like Jay Scott is like obsessed with the carnivore diet, and that literally came from like I remember I was guiding a sheep hunt with him, and I opened up my lunch for the day up on the mountain, and it was cold hamburger patties.
yeah,
It's like I was just pretty common for me. Like I'll eat what it's kind of weird, and he's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? And we got to talking about it, and he loves it. You know what I mean? But I think it works for a lot of the same reasons. I will say, if I was gonna pinpoint a negative for me personally, Nate, is that I don't know what it is, dude. I don't know if it's gut biome stuff or what. It's just this isn't a world that I dive super deep in, but my ability to be flexible with diet stuff is really low. So
Mhm.
when I get on a like for instance, if I get back good on the carnivore diet, which once I'm done guiding, I typically will, it pretty much, I eat some salad, I eat some fruit, whatever, but that's
Yeah.
pretty much what I'm eating. But let's say I go to Thanksgiving dinner at my in-laws' house, right? Obviously I'm gonna eat normal Thanksgiving dinner. I'm not gonna just be the guy like show up with my ribeye or whatever. So
Yeah.
I make an exception to that. I haven't drank alcohol in like 8 years now, Nate.
Mhm.
But the next morning, I'll feel like I went on a straight up bender,
Yep.
just because changing my diet. And I know it's correlated to the carnivore deal.
Yeah.
I've become very intolerant to exceptions to my diet.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, bad thing, whatever. It's an inconvenience in life for sure.
Mhm.
And it's funny how you say that, like you kind of cheat, but you're like accounting for the cheating.
Mhm.
I don't cheat on the carnivore diet, and most of the people I know that are on it, they don't cheat and they have no urge to,
Yeah.
because they have this brain pathway that gets developed. That's like, if I cheat, it sucks. It
Yeah.
gets me all screwed up.
Well, and
You know what I
especially with
mean?
the carnivore diet, like if you're in ketosis, especially, it's like, well, dude, yeah, I really don't want to cheat because then it'll take me what 3 days to get back into keto.
Yeah, and I never tracked that, but I'm assuming that's what happens. Like, it
Yeah.
knocks me just for like, literally feels like I like got totally shit faced the night before. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's a
Yep.
very interesting thing that and I guess the reason I brought it up is it's different. It's a dynamic that's interesting because there is no cheating. Is not even like, I don't want to go off of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
But what's interesting, I like your approach to it, and I like that you're saying it with proof that it works, Nate. Because
Mhm.
you've been consistently losing weight now for 2 years, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so I like it that you can say it with authority, because it's kind of like, it makes sense, man. You're basically accounting for it, and you just have to have discipline about the diet. I even like your analogy about, like fidelity with your wife or whatever. Like, look, this shit is pretty serious. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If it's something you want to do, you just have to be disciplined about it.
Yep. Yeah, and I
You
think
know?
like I mean everybody's got to find what works for them, right? Like that's the biggest thing is like if you can budget in a 200 like I know that if I go to Dairy Queen, what I'm going to get is the little like strawberry sundae cuz it's like 220 calories. So like
Sure.
you can know what you're going to get, but if you go to Dairy Queen and you're like, "Hey, I budgeted in this 220 calorie small sundae," and then you end up getting a
Yeah.
large blizzard, and then you're like, "Oh man, that blizzard was really good. I'm going to get a burger." And then you're 2,000 calories into this binge and you're like, "Whoa, maybe that's not going to work for you." I think that there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that just and the other thing too is if you're not someone who's going to track your food religiously, like that is me. I will track my food religiously every single day. I will track everything that goes in my mouth. But if that's not you and you just will not do that, I think maybe the carnivore diet or something like that is your friend because it's just way simpler. Like I don't know a whole lot of people that track macros super strict on the carnivore diet because, like you said earlier, I just don't think you like really need to.
Yeah, yeah, or for sure, nobody tracks total calorie intake
Yeah.
because they just can't eat enough. Or they
Yep.
can't eat too much just
There's
because it's like a nature of it.
There's another really interesting thing too. I was listening to a podcast with Alan Bolin and I don't remember the other guy's name, but it was on the Hoyt bow hunting podcast, and they were
Okay,
talking
sure.
about how that guy had a bunch of triathlon athletes that he was training, and he put one group was just like on the normal, like they ate high carb, just like the way the endurance athletes eat, and then the other group went on. They were doing keto like way back, like it was like the early like stages of keto, and they were
Okay.
burning when they tested them, they were burning a gram and a half um, per of fat per like minute or something like that while they were on the bike, and the other group was burning a gram of fat. So they were
Okay.
burning like half again the amount of fat as the control group. So I think that there might be something there too, where once you can convert your body to running off of that system of fat as opposed to the glucose and carbohydrates, it seems to be that there's something there too.
Like an efficiency difference, kind
Hmm.
of, or however you would describe it. No,
Yeah.
I got you. No, it's it's interesting, but it's kind of, and I'm not like pushing back on you, Nate, on the whole deal where like sometimes it's not for people or not or whatever, but there is an element of element of it. It's like, well, I mean, I mean, okay. If you don't want to do a carnivore diet, which is like, to me at least still feels like fringe,
Hmm.
but I agree with you. It's easy to do it, and I
Yep.
hate to say it, Nate, because like if I got a fat buddy, and this is coming from like like I got no place to say this because like I said I've never struggled with this, but the data set of like all the guys I know that went on carnivore or have really gave it a run. If
Hmm.
I got a heavy buddy and he complains to me that he has a hard time with his weight, I hate to say it, but I look at him, I'm like, look, dude, you're not trying, because
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that if you go to the carnivore diet and you
Yep.
do it for 2 months, you're going to lose weight.
Yep.
And then you can say the same thing with, hey, if you do your accounting, and I want to hear the actual like tools you use, Nate, because
Yeah.
I'm sure you've tried different things. But like if you do the accounting, and now that I'm sure the technology with all this is like it's predictive of what you're
Yep.
putting on there, all that shit. So it's not like you can't complain that it's that hard to do it.
Yep.
So you could do it Cliff's way, where it's just only eat meat and you're gonna lose weight, or you do it Nate's way and you're gonna lose weight. So quit bitching to me about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yep.
it's very hard for me to say that because I've never struggled with it.
Yep.
But there's a practical part of me that's like, well, I don't really care if it's for you or not. If this is what you want, you got to do one of them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But
Yeah. It's just a
yeah, go
matter
ahead.
of, yeah, are you committed to what you say you're committed to?
Right, for sure. What are the tools, Nate?
Yeah,
What do you use?
I'll show you right now. I use MyFitnessPal.
Okay,
I've tried a bunch of the macro trackers. I like this one the most, and I just use the free version. Like I don't even pay for it. They have a premium one. I think it's like $20 a month. But I think that that's like dumb for an app. But so yeah, I literally just have the free one, and then
I got you.
I'll just when I go to eat something, so like dinner, you log your dinner, you just click add food right here. Oh, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Add food. And then this is a bunch of stuff that I've eaten in the past. It just comes right up. Like you said,
And
it's
you
pretty
just click it.
predictive. Or you just search food. And then let's say something's not in there. It's really easy to just create a food. You just go over here to My Foods, create a food. Like I went to Kava the other night and they didn't have it on here. So I just built my bowl on Kava and I just Googled
Okay,
macros in Kava and I built my bowl online and then it showed me the macros. So I just was able to track it. So
and then
yeah.
you have it. If you go back, you have it or whatever.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yep. So I just use my Fitness Pal. I think it's the easiest one.
It's kind of amazing, man. Like everybody's a little bit different on this, like depending on where they live and their lifestyle or whatever. But it's kind of amazing how few foods people eat
I know.
once you start tracking them. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and
My
it's like,
wife uses that same app.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like I got my wife to start tracking macros and I was like, hey, you got to like every day track. And she was like, finally, she was like, I don't know if I like really need to track macros. I eat the same thing every day. And I think that's kind of
Yeah,
what you fall into is like, okay, you're going to eat these pretty much the same things every day. It's just what works for you.
yeah, and then you figure it out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I loved it, dude. I love that discussion, dude, because it's basically like simplifies it. Like, hey, here's the deal, you know.
Yeah.
One question I have for you on diet, Nate. Have you ever because I know people that have had this trouble. Do you feel like if something really disruptive in your life occurred, that you would kind of revert back to eating shitty?
No, I think like, I mean, to be honest, like right now is like a pretty stressful time, like in my life. Like I have a lot of different things like pulling me different directions. Um,
Right.
and I've had a couple things that just like recently that just didn't work out the way I wanted them to. But no, because when I start eating crappy again, like I ate Wendy's last night and then
Hmm.
like this morning, I look at myself and I'm like, holy crap, dude! Like I can see it. Like if I go like eat Wendy's like how I did last night, like and I just did it like we were driving home. It wasn't like I was stressed eating Wendy's or anything like that. Like
Right.
we just went and got Wendy's. Um, I will instantly know. Kind of like what you said with like you feel like you're freaking hungover. Like today, my
Yeah.
workout sucked because I ate Wendy's yesterday. So it's like, oh okay, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you create like a feedback loop where it doesn't make you feel good. It like makes it
Y-
feel bad.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like
And
I
the
know what's coming when I do it.
sure, sure. And the reason I ask, man, is that because when I get a lot of stuff going on,
Hmm.
I tend to use it as an excuse to like get off some of like the things that I really am like try to be disciplined like
Yeah.
daily on. Not necessarily diet, but like just in general. There's some few things that I like to do every day in my life that kind of keep me going. Like
Hmm.
one of them for me, dude, is stretching. Like,
Yeah.
and there's some people laugh at this, but I'm like very big into stretching. Like it's kind of it's not something I widely publicize because people will make fun of me.
Yeah.
But I try to do it like every day,
Yeah.
and when I'm not when I have too much crap going on, I forget to I basically like it doesn't happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I just kind of I feel like some people challenge the same thing with diet. They have they end up shucking it to the side.
Yeah.
But you just have to not do that, I suppose.
Yep. Yeah. I
You
think,
know.
yeah. I mean, for me, I just like, I love working out, and I know that I know how my workouts will suffer if my diet suffers. So it's like, it becomes easier to not do those things.
Right. Let's dude, let's talk about the workout side of stuff.
Yeah.
And if so one thing that I think would be really interesting for my listeners, Nate, is you mentioned Elk Shape's program.
Hmm.
So talk about more about that. If you tried any of the other ones, man, like
Yeah.
because now there's like I know the Mountain Tough guys are doing stuff. I've had other guys approach me, about the different workout programs that are geared towards
Yep.
hunters. And dude, full transparency, I think they're awesome. I've declined personally to be involved with any of them just because I know I'm not going to use the product.
Yeah.
So if you have any insight on any of that stuff, dude, like please, like let folks know what your thoughts are if you've got like things that worked or didn't work.
So I've actually tried like all of them. Like, I've talked to like all
Okay,
the,
sweet.
yeah. So like or I don't know if all of them, but Elk Shape Training, Mountain Tough, and then Mayhem Hunt. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like
And
I have,
Mayhem Hunt is that the CrossFit guys?
yeah, Rich Froning.
Okay,
Yep.
sure.
Yep, it's his. So, yeah, this is my thoughts on that, which I actually just did a podcast. If people want to go listen with Tanner Shuck, he is a guy who he was a CrossFit competitor, and then he's kind of completely changed some of his training methodologies. But I think that those programs are all good. Um, but I think some of them are missing something. So I think at the foundation of a training program, you have to strength train. Like, I don't think you can overlook the importance of strength training, especially in longevity. So like, I have a neighbor, he's 65 maybe, and he went on like this weight loss drug, or no, he got his stomach like stapled or something like that,
Okay.
and he
Yep.
lost like 200 pounds, and he weighs like a buck 30 now, or buck 40, and he is like just like skin and bones, and he's sick all the time. He's like having these medical problems. He has no muscle mass, and he's kind of sickly. And I think about that, I'm like, huh, I want to hedge against that. Like, I don't want to get to the point where I'm 65 and I'm struggling to pick stuff up. I still want to be strong at 65, and that starts with getting strong young. But if you're not young, like, you cannot look at the
Sure.
importance of strength training. So I think that there's like, when you're looking at a program, everyone focuses so much on the conditioning, which is super important, but you can't neglect that foundation of strength training. And I'm talking like, don't make it complicated. Barbell bench press. Like, everyone should be, and some people say, "Oh, you don't need a bench, it's not functional." Like, I think you should be able to bench, because you should be able to push stuff off of you if you are on the ground and someone's on you or something like that. Deadlifting. I think deadlifting is super, super important. And then back and front squats, like, not in a leg press, not with a kettlebell, with a barbell, and being able to work up to where you can squat your body weight for multiple reps. I just think you need to be able to do that. And then you can kind of fill in the blanks with some of the other stuff. But yeah, I think all those
Yeah.
programs are good. I just have noticed that a lot of them will put a little bit more of an emphasis, well, a lot more of an emphasis on the conditioning pieces or the random accessories, and not have the core lifts. Now, Mayhem Hunt, I think, is the best one for having those core lifts. Um, as the staple of the program, because you're going to back squat, you're going to front squat, you're going to power clean, you're going to do those foundational lifts with conditioning pieces. But
Right.
yeah, I just think the strength training should be the core of it, and then conditioning. You could literally do whatever you want for conditioning. It doesn't matter. You can run, you can whatever you like, rowing. I mean, you could do metcons like CrossFit style workouts. You could do that. I don't think it matters. What I do think matters though is you need to mix up your conditioning pieces and not get super into one. So if you're only ever doing zone 2 runs, well then when you have to climb a mountain really quick and your heart rate spikes, you're not going to be able to get your heart rate down very fast. But if you only do short metcons, if you're going to go hike 15 miles in a day, it's going to wreck you for the next day. So I think you need to learn the balance. So the way I'm approaching training right now is I like to break out my day like this. I'll do all my strength training at the beginning. So I'll warm up. I do the crossover symmetry stuff every day. I think for your shoulders and hips, it's just really, really good, especially if you're into archery. So I'll do a warm up with that, and then I go into strength training. So whatever I'm going to strength, like today was more of like an upper focus. So it was like bench and dips. So it was more of like an upper push focus, and then I'll do the strength training. Usually it's like 5x5s with a lot of weight to where I'm pushing myself and I can feel
Right.
that. And then after that, I'll do a Metcon style workout where my heart rate spikes, but it's not very long. So like today's it was 8 minutes of wall balls and kettlebell swings. My heart rate got up to like 150, and it's just I can push myself as hard as I can because I know it's going to end in 8 minutes. So my goal is just to get my heart rate to peak, and then I'll do some sort of a monostructure cardio. So like today, I just went on a run. Tomorrow's going to be a bike ride or a rowing, or actually tomorrow's rowing intervals. But each day it's kind of broken down that way.
Right. No, that makes sense. Dude, so I want to hear your opinion on this, Nate. So I've never done a lot of, like the last time I did like any weight training or whatever was probably like in high school weight training.
Yeah.
But over the years, like I've been pretty active in jujitsu for 7 or 8 years or whatever, and I noticed it's really built up my core,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like a strength related thing, I think. But I will say that this observation about strength, particularly core, like I can only really relate to the core component of it. And amongst my guides and kids that worked for me and stuff like that over the years, I could look at a guy, even if he was like looked lean, right? He's
Yeah.
160 pound, 5'10" guy. I could go over there and swat his belly or whatever, and I could tell you if he's gonna have a hard time backpack hunting. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like a kid, like a young guy who's like, like a wrestler or,
Hmm.
or he's into weight training or whatever, and he's just like solid in his mid body. I don't know why, but I can tell you that it's hugely fundamental to backpack hunting.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that. I'm thinking it's probably like it's along the lines of what you're saying. Like it's not all about cardio because that's like just a really, I guess the simplest way I'd say it is like, and everybody knows what this is when I say it. When you see a skinny fat guy,
Hmm.
those guys, they have a hard time until they get through that. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
this is my thought on exactly what you're saying. So I think jujitsu and strength training very similar because you're putting an external load on your body that you're fighting against actively. So like you think about you have somebody on top of you that you're trying to get them off of you. That's how like that is the exact same as benching or doing a shoulder press or
sure,
doing a squat. You have a load on you, and so that transferring into the mountains it's going to transfer great because you're now in the mountains. You're putting a pack on yourself. Now, with training, the thing that I think is overlooked. I listened to a guy say this the other day. The only time during our lives right now, the only time that you are going to have that external load on your body, just day to day, is when you actually put it on there. Like you have to go to jujitsu, or you have to go
sure,
weight train, or you have to do something to have an external load put on your body. But cardio, like depending on what your job is, like you're getting cardio every day. You're walking around, you're taking steps, you're
right.
moving, you're walking your dog, you're doing whatever. You're going to get cardio naturally, but it's that external load that you really have to prioritize putting on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, sure. No. I totally agree with that. And I just find it interesting because it's super. It's something that's it's kind of odd to me, for sure within the hunting community, but this is broader too. Everybody focuses on how fat the guy is. Like
Mhm.
guiding, this was always the thing, right? Like guiding's like, hey, show me the like who am I guiding today or who am I guiding this week, Cliff? Show me their health form so I know how fat they are. That's a thing. You know what I mean? Like you know, the guides are like, okay, so what can I do with this guy? And they make
Yeah.
their judgments on that. And the thing is that it's not that correlated. You know what I mean? Like it
Yep.
is to some extent, but there are fat guys, they're heavy guys or whatever.
Mhm.
Like that's what people, you saw him on the street, you say that guy's fat.
Yep.
But but when you look at him in person, you can tell he's strong.
Yeah.
They'll do well, and then you could get a guy that is lean on paper, but when you look at him, you know like he's not in good shape. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And that whatever I'm describing right now is highly relevant to hunting,
Yeah.
and I think it's probably just the strength component. You
Yep.
know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, if you look at me on the street and like you didn't know anything about me, you'd go, "Oh, that guy's fat," because I still am. Like, I still am not, and not down where I want to be. But like, I know that
You're
there's. I mean,
strong, yeah.
I would put myself up against a lot of people in the mountains, like just in my ability to move and keep moving. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, I think you're right. But also, it's like a lot of that is just training. Like, I've ran 2 ultra marathons this year,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I think that a lot of your training. Yeah, I think depending on what, I don't know how to say this. Depending on what you look like, I mean, everyone always wants to look different. Whether that you're listening to
Yeah,
this and
yeah.
you're like, "Wow, I just got my ass kicked in the mountains." You should definitely focus on losing weight because that's going to help you a lot. Just taking extra weight off. You think about hiking with an 80-pound pack versus hiking without it. It's way harder, obviously, with the pack. But I think you really should also focus on structuring your training towards being more effective at whatever it is you want to do. And for most of us, it's going to be that backpack hunting.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and I think that kind of it's an added bonus of it is you know, I mean, dude, 99% of my audience is guys, you know,
Hmm.
Nate, but so they don't talk about it much, but also makes you feel better,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Stronger, you look stronger. That's like it's a big deal. Let's be
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
honest. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, dude, and I will say, like on Instagram, dude, you do a good job of like being pretty freaking bold about that, man. Like, I mean, how much? I mean, you're very willing to show like how much your body has changed, which is pretty badass, dude. You know. Um,
Yeah, I've got my first bicep vein peeking out. Like, it'll be here in a couple. I'm just
That's
waiting
awesome.
on to show. Well, it's almost, so my wife and I get super into rock climbing in the winter.
Oh, nice.
We Because we only go indoor, but it's like we love it. Like, we keep going back and forth, and I'm like, Katie, it's almost rock climbing season. Like, we're stoked about it. But dude, I know the bicep veins are going to be coming out in the rock climbing season.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that stuff. And it's funny you say that, dude, because one of my recommendations to people, and I think all the stuff you said is probably like super additive and probably the true core of going from maybe out of shape and not prepared to go elk hunting, deer hunting, mountain hunting, whatever, and then getting prepared for it. But I have always told guys like, man, one of the things you can do it's kind of low hanging fruit is just to get into one of these hobbies, and it could be an
Mhm.
old hobby, could be
Yep.
like playing tennis with your buddies, could be rock climbing, could be jujitsu. Dude, if you used to wrestle, like go teach the high school wrestling team and
Yeah.
do the drills with them, right, or
Yep.
whatever. Like that's kind of low hanging fruit for guys that have a lot of stuff going on in their life. You
Oh,
know.
yeah, totally. Yeah, and
Um,
it helps you too. Like, if you want to get into rock climbing, what's going to help you rock climb? It's going to help you be lighter. And rock
yeah,
climbing, like,
sure.
it's going to get your heart rate up. Jujitsu, you need to be able to move good to do jujitsu. Like, yeah, yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, I think that's all. I mean, do you have? Oh, you know what I was going to ask you, man, on your because you hunted this year, like
Yeah.
after all this progress. What's any like unanticipated or like has it been your expectations like, hey, oh, this is what hunting's like after losing 80, 90 pounds or whatever, plus being stronger? Was there anything that you're like, oh, it didn't change that much on this front, or on other stuff you're like, oh, this is much easier? Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, oh yeah. I feel like it's just a lot easier. Like, I feel like I can just kind of go, like, so with my wife, it was kind of funny. My wife, I hope she doesn't listen to this. I'm gonna tell this story, and yeah, I mean, she usually will, and she'll get really pissed if I say this. But like this weekend we were out chasing deer, and I was like, so I do this thing when I'm hunting, and I'm pretty like I'm not a good hunter, like I'm still trying to figure it out, but
Sure.
I'll do this thing where like anytime I see something, it's the thing I'm looking for until it's not, because I feel like it's just like grades better luck or something. So like we were out walking, and we hiked there was like a mile and a half to get to the spot, and we hiked in, and then I saw this group of does, and I was like, Katie, it's a buck. And so they kind of crossed over this ridge line, and I ran to the top of this ridge line. It was pretty steep, and I was like sprinting the whole way up, and I got up there and I was glassing them, and I was like, nope, sorry, Katie, they're just does. And she was down back behind me, just like she was kind of out of breath because she was having a little bit of a rough day. But I was like, okay, I just glassed a deer way across this canyon. It's like 1,000 yards from us, and we can go at it this way, but it's gonna be tough because it's straight up, or we can walk around. It's only a mile, and we can get there this way, and it's all flat. And so
Sure.
like now, like I just don't care. Like I'll go do that. And I'm like, I feel like I have a lot more energy in the woods to just be able to go like chase whatever I want to chase. But then also I've noticed I don't like, it doesn't hurt me. Like I can go, I'm trying to think this year. I had a day where I hiked 13 miles in the morning and then like 5 at night or something. And then the next day I was fine. I just went back out and did it again. It's not
Yeah.
like I have to like gear back up. You know what I mean? Like a couple years, like I remember last year I had a day where I did 17 miles. And then the next day I was like, well, maybe I'll do 2 today because that sucked.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, and that's like the rational part of it, Nate. That I used to run into that a lot, guiding guys.
yeah.
And the thing is, like, I guess the better analogy, just to extend it beyond just like weight and that sort of thing, is if you get older guys
Mm-hmm.
who they could be just studs, but they know they have physical issues. Like they know that, dude, if I do that right now, I'm gonna be toast in the morning because I got all these joints that are like bone on bone, just whatever, horrible. So
Yeah.
you kind of got to make these rational choices all the time, right? Like, okay, well, we probably shouldn't push it tonight because that might toast us for the morning, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are like, it makes sense. But on stuff that you can make better, like your weight and being in better shape, like you want to avoid that as much as possible. Like you do want to have the capacity to just go bang it out and like
Yep.
get it done right now. Yeah, like you're saying, like you see a deer over there right 30 minutes before shooting light, and it's like, well, can I or can't do it? Can I or can't I do it? It's like, well, the risk of doing it is not that bad if you're
Yep.
in decent shape. And I think you nailed the point that people don't realize how much it ups your effectiveness.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, dude. Like a lot of the hunting, that a lot of the hunting that people really have access to, those scenarios are the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna kill them right at dark. You're gonna kill them right in the morning.
Yep.
And if you can't push it a little bit, it for sure affects you.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely, man. That makes sense. That would be something that popped out to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But dude, we covered a lot, dude. I want to be respectful of your time, but let's talk about your Instagram, man. And like, I don't want to project anything like it. So just what are you trying to accomplish with it, Nate?
So yeah, so I have there like I don't know if people are familiar with it or not, but there is a method to the madness. So when I started the Instagram, I was just making stupid videos, and I was like, oh, this will be kind of fun. And then my first couple videos just like absolutely took off, and I was like, oh wow, maybe I have something here. So I kind of like refined this, but I think that so I kind of have like multiple things I do on it. But at the core, it's just like fitness, hunting, and then these random videos that I make that are just I think they're funny. Sometimes people don't think they're. My wife the other day got on me. She was like, you posted a couple that I thought were pretty bad. And I was like, well, Katie, you're a woman and my audience is 18 to 35-year-old men. So
Yeah.
you're not going to think it's funny. Um, but
Dude, I have to laugh at that, Nate. Like, I get people, and no disrespect to anybody who watches, because I know I got female listeners too, and I got
Yep.
that they're really into elk hunting stuff, and I know some phenomenal elk hunting guides that are female. But I use the term guy all the time, or
Yeah.
like obviously some of my content's geared towards men, like I'm speaking to men, and it's like, look. Don't make comments about it because I can show you my
Yeah.
analytics.
Oh,
and
yeah.
99% of the people who watch my stuff are 30 to 66-year-old guys.
Yep.
So like, you're welcome to watch it, but just know that you're the exception.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
You
the
know?
same way. I'm the 18 to 35-year-old dudes. Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so I realized like that those like stupid videos that I make where like I'll make a joke about having a small wiener or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those always will get like just like a crazy amount of views. And then like that like puts a lot of eyes on my page. But then I also post my workouts every day because I want people to have like, oh, look at this guy doing it. Maybe I could do that. And they see me. And then I also just want to post like relatable stuff from my overall journey. Cause like at the core, I love working out. I love trying to get fit and kind of this process. But then all of that started because I love hunting and I love the outdoors. And if you could take
Yeah,
away
sure.
everything, like I would still want at my core, I love my wife and I love hunting. Like those are the only two things that I really would want to have remaining. And I think that hunting, and I don't mean this at all negatively. Like I love your content. I love Dan Staton's content. I love Cameron Haynes' content. Like I love all those Kip Folks, like those guys, and you guys all are really good at what you do. But there's a lot of us who I think are just trying to figure that out. And we're like, okay, well, I'm at level 0 right now, and I look at all these guys at level 100, and I think that I posted a bunch of stuff where I'm just like being myself and kind of like my struggles that I'm facing. And it's cool the DMs I get where people are like, yeah, man, I went out this whole season too and I didn't see anything, but we'll get them next year. And we'll get it like, we'll, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll keep training and we'll keep chipping away at it. And it's cool because there's kind of a little community aspect there of all of us that are super new on this that are just trying to figure stuff out. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that there's kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge there of stuff, but that's kind of the messages that I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, yeah. And Nate, do you have like another 10 minutes or
Oh,
so?
I got plenty of time. Yeah, I'm.
Okay, cool. Because I actually want to dive into this one because one, I know that I have like a lot of viewers that are in that, within that exactly the idea you're talking about, right? Like
Mhm.
they're either new to hunting. Like I have a lot of guys, Nate, who started like I would say like my the core of my viewership is guys that are 30 to 60 who are getting into hunting, or maybe 25 to 60 who are getting into hunting and have no exposure, like no dad, no
Yep.
grandpa. Like they're just, and that's like that in itself super intimidating, man.
Yeah.
And I say that from never having to deal with it. My only exposure to that is that I've guided a lot of people, and I've, all my content, I interact with a lot of people who are new to hunting, so I see like their struggles.
Hmm.
But dude, I totally had the cheat code, man. Like my dad was an outfitter when I was a kid. I've been around hunters my whole life, so it's not something that I personally had to deal with, but I see it, and I
Yeah.
see it as a growing thing. And so content like yours is really interesting that way because it shows some of the reality and some of the challenges. And what is unfortunate is I think a lot of people would construe what you just said about it as like, oh, these are guys that are like throwing in the towel, or they're not being like hardcore about it, or that's not it. You know what I mean? Like this stuff, it takes a journey, and I get the feeling from you that you're pretty serious about it, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's humor, but you're pretty serious about like, losing the weight, being ready,
Mhm.
even the hunting skill set stuff. Like I get the feeling like it's a pretty serious endeavor to you.
Yeah.
But along the way, it's got a ton of challenges, and it's like there's this big steep learning curve. And the other thing, Nate, is like, and I'm totally guilty of this too, and it's a function of just where I'm at in my hunting career. What anybody sees on my Instagram, what anybody sees on, what Rogan puts up in the hunting context, Cam puts up in the hunting context, all that, it is so far from the reality of what somebody can just go and buy a tag and do,
Hmm.
that it just is what it is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's and there's a bunch of different reasons why that is. Like I can only comment on my stuff personally. My personal guiding, I tend to guide very high dollar hunts
Yeah.
because it's my personal economics. You know what
Yep.
I mean? It's if I guide those hunts, I make more money with my time, so I'm going to do that. And
Yep.
and phenomenal clientele. I love doing it. It's not about that. It's not like I don't like doing it, but it puts me in a situation where like, yeah, like I'm going to call in 50 bulls every September.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like that's not the real world
Hmm.
that most people are exposed to. And I guided in that real world for a very long time. And I don't mean to dwell on it, man, but I hope people understand that there's just this difference that exists.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, and again, like I really don't want to sound prideful or arrogant at all, because that's just not me. Like I'm not. That's not what I'm trying to sound like at all. But I think we need voices for the other people. Like we need voices for, like, literally for me. Like I'm in that boat. Like I've been. This is gonna be, or this was my third year in a row not shooting an elk with my bow. But like we need to kind of band together, because it's like do we as hunting, we need the people like me to stick around. Like
oh
we
yeah,
need
yeah, yeah,
those dudes
sure,
to go out, and even if you don't shoot anything 3, 4, 5 years in a row, like we, for the longevity of this lifestyle, we need to keep those dudes and keep them included. And I think it's really easy, like, to look at some people and be like, oh well, obviously you just didn't work hard enough. I read a post today from Matt. Do you know Matt Allwine?
I don't.
He owns Mountain Forged.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so I read a post that he posted today. He got both of his sons, and that dude is an absolute killer. He is just an absolute killer. And he posted that he was out with his son in a really high pressured unit in Washington. And I mean, you live in Oregon, you know Washington's a
sure,
pretty hard state to. So anyway, he said that there was hunters everywhere and they weren't seeing elk. And I was reading the post and he said, so we finally got one to bugle back to us at 1 a.m. So we just sat there all night, and my son stayed up
right,
with me all night until that. And I was like, whoa, it would never occur to me in a million years to sit there all night and have a bull bugle at 1 a.m. I was like, wow, I would just not think to do that. And so I think
right.
that, like, that I don't know why I said that. Sorry. I just got
No,
super
no, 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 no.
sidetracked.
I mean,
But
I'm sure it's just because it's like that's what he has to do. You know, that's what he's having to do, and
yeah.
that's relatable to the type of hunting you're doing. And that in the another part of that, Nate, is like what you said, and even the way you said it, dude. You're like, there's some of us that we've been hunting for 3, 4 years and we haven't killed an elk yet, dude. That's the norm.
Hmm.
That's the statistical norm, dude.
Yep.
Like I cannot tell you how many guys I know. Like I can think of several guys that that I would call very proficient mountain guys, very good hunters. Maybe not. Maybe they don't have like maybe they hadn't been hunting elk their whole life, but I would cross paths with them every year in the flat tops. Like some of them were packing in their own mules, whatever. And some of them it took 5, 6, 7, 10 years before they killed a bull with their
Hmm.
bow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the norm. So I think it's more. The way I would put it, I guess to tag on to what you're saying, is like we need to have the discussion because it helps people stay motivated,
Yep.
which is important. Like if
Yep.
you get this perspective that like, why is so and so got all these big elk in their Instagram and like I just suck at this?
Yeah.
Dude. Anybody that says that that's not demotivating is full of crap.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Oh
And,
yeah.
and I don't think anybody should change what they're doing. Like I'm not going to change what I'm doing. I
Hmm.
don't feel bad, that I'm doing this or that, how whatever. Because it's just whatever, it just is what it is.
Yep.
But I love talking about the realities of it because I
Yeah.
think it's the most helpful thing to people.
Well, dude, and I think like that's like one thing I really want to show on my journey. So someone asked me the other day. They said, "What's your?" It was Cable Smith. He asked me, "What's your like bucket list with hunting? Like, what's like the thing you want to do?" And I'm young, like I'm 26, but I thought about that for a second, and um, I like so like elk shape Dan Staten. I look at that guy, and then I look at you. I think you two are like what I want to like rise up to where like Dan killed full 4 bulls this year. Public
Sure.
land bulls, DIY. How many public land bulls have you killed this year? Not you personally, but that you've guided this year.
Yeah, so I only guided on public land one hunt early
Okay.
on.
But you
Um,
filled the tag?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but like all the stuff, like you cut your teeth in Colorado, which is one of the harder states. Obviously there's like a lot of elk, but there's a
Yeah,
ton of
yeah. Oh,
pressure
yeah.
and there's a
It's
lot of
hard.
challenges. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
but I look at you guys and I'm like, okay, if I know with Cliff Gray, I could drop you off in the mountains and you're coming home with an elk. Like that's the point I want to get to, but I want to show people that journey and hopefully they can see themselves in me and realize, oh, I can stick with this thing, and if that idiot can do it, I can do it too. And so
Yeah, sure.
that's kind of
No.
what I want to show people because yeah, dude, I don't know. I talked to this guy, so I, dude, I went to this spot and I let out a bugle, didn't hear anything. I went down in this dark timber, I let out a bugle, didn't hear anything, and I was kind of working away across this canyon. Then I hear a bugle rip off, and I was like, oh my gosh, and my heart just starts like just going
Sure.
crazy. So I start running over, and it was so thick. So I'm like crawling over stuff. I'm dropping my bow. I'm falling, and I finally get over to where I heard this bugle, and I let out a couple soft cow calls, and then I hear a cow call back at me, and I was like, "This is it, dude." So I knock my bow, and I'm walking forward, and then all of a sudden I see this dude just poke up, and he waves at me, and I walk
Ah.
over to him. We start talking, and I was like, "Are you from around here?" And he goes, "Nope, nope. I'm from up north. I'm from Wisconsin, but I come out here every single year and I hunt here." And I said, "Really? That's awesome. How long you been
Yeah.
doing that?" And he goes, 21 years. And I said, 21 years? That's amazing. How many elk
Yeah.
have you killed out here in 21 years? And he goes, he looks at me, he goes, none.
It's still pretty awesome.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
loves it and he's getting a kick out of it. And I'm like, dude, there's a lot like people are so focused on that grip and grin with that big 6 point bull, which I am too. I
Yeah, of course.
I
That's
like
a goal.
yeah, yeah, and like
Yeah.
the whole time I'm out there, I'm like I'm visualizing that. I'm really big on like visualizing, manifesting, and so like I'm like visualizing that, manifesting that, and then it doesn't happen. But I think that there's so many of us that do that, and we need to not get discouraged on that. You need to realize, like,
Right.
well, look at what country are you looking at? Where are you that you would not have been any other way? Like, I'm not going to go on a hike, but I'll
Yeah.
go on a bow hunt and I'll hike 15 miles with my bow. So it's like I think that there's so much with it that comes with it that you need to appreciate. That you can't just get so focused on killing the bull, which obviously that's the goal. I really want to kill an elk.
Yeah.
I begged Matt Allwine to take me next year, and I think he's going to. So, I really want to kill an elk, but there's so much more to learn in the process of becoming a woodsman and becoming a sportsman that I think that you just can't get so focused on the end result.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. And then the comparison deal is just
Yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense. And dude, and I think the reason that I like to talk about it with Nate is because I dealt with it is when I was outfitting, I was guilty of that bad, man.
really.
Like I mean, I feel like I had, and some of the guys that used to work for me, they're running my old outfit now, and they've expanded and everything else, and I'm like very like proud's not the word because they're not like they weren't my kids or whatever. They're like my co-workers at the. But I'm just like happy for them, you
Yeah,
know. But man, like we were grinding, and I'll admit to this publicly now. But I mean, hunting, wilderness, public land stuff, as hard as it gets in terms of hunting elk. Like, I mean,
hmm
if you were getting into elk bugling in a 6 or 7 day hunt, and this is stuff that we'd already packed in on horses, 10 miles into. If you got into elk 50% of the days, like you were kicking ass. You know what I mean? And that
yeah,
was like the nature of it. It was like very tough hunting. And we shot a lot of raghorns. We shot a lot of small bulls. But I can honestly say, like, some of those guys that guided for me and guided with me, they're like, they will. If I took those guys right now, Nate, and I put them in some of the places that I'm been blessed to hunt and guide in now, those guys, it'd be almost dangerous. You'd come
yeah,
back and they'd just be on a stack of dead shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because they're so tuned up because they're in that environment. But during those years of guiding in that environment, like I would get on Instagram, and it was when I was so busy, like I didn't have a bunch of social media stuff. I just, I put my stuff up for marketing and everything else.
yeah,
I'd go look at the Arizona guys that are guiding hunts that are, 20-point draw hunts and, all the ranch hunts. And I was very guilty of being like, this, man, dude, like, this is
hmm
painful. Like, if we kill, maybe we were killing 50 bulls a year, but if we kill one that's a 320-inch bull, like, it's like, holy shit, awesome. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And if I posted it up on Instagram, nobody cared.
yep,
And I went through that with it just is a analogous in my career, being like, you know what, like this has to be about improving my own thing,
yeah,
because comparison is not, it makes no sense, and it's
yep,
detrimental, I guess was what I would say. You know what I mean? But like you said, it's I mean, obviously the goal should be to kill elk, kill deer, and have a blast. That's for sure the goal. And kill big ones is a great goal too.
Yep.
But but
I've
yeah, deer.
graduated this year. I've graduated from killing small deer. I shot a small deer this year, and it was funny. I told my wife, I was like, I'm done shooting small deer, and she said, I will shoot a deer as long as it's bigger than yours, and she nailed it. She killed a bigger deer than anything I've ever shot. So good for her.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. And you kill both of them with bows.
No, hers was her. She shot hers with a gun.
Okay, but you killed your
Yep.
deer with a bow.
Yep. Yep.
Nice, dude. That's
Yep. That was
awesome.
my second buck I've shot with my bow.
Okay, sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, dude. That in itself is a big accomplishment, man.
That was cool because it was like, so that it was a small buck, but it was like they did exactly what I thought they were gonna do based off of like how I've hunted deer for a while now, and I like kind of know like more or less what they're gonna do, and like
Sure.
that like I came to full draw, and there's a group of deer walking across this little opening, and it was like I came to full draw as soon as I could hear the first one walking right where I thought they were going to, and I had ranged this little spot. And I watched these 3 does walk by and this little buck that was kind of pushing them from behind, and then I shot him, and it was just cool kind of how that came together.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's always awesome, dude. Watching the arrow go.
Yep.
Oh, what the hell just happened?
Yep.
Dude, I still get that every time. That's like that to me. That's very unique to archery hunting.
Oh,
Right? Like I like it all
yeah.
personally, but like that's a very much an archery thing. Like
The
that
first
moment
year
pretty
I
well.
shot last oh sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, no, go ahead, man.
The first deer I shot last year, it was a far shot, but I shoot a ton. Like with my bow, I
Sure.
shoot a lot. I'm shooting less this year actually than I shot last year, but I shot this deer at 80 yards, and it was like that was the craziest thing when I drew and I was just settled in there, and then when I let that arrow go, and just to watch that arrow and then
Yeah.
hear the sound of that arrow connecting,
Yeah.
it was just like I had never heard anything like that, and I was like that like made me an addict for the rest of my life, like just that sound. And then this year
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was so cool because when I shot this deer, and I've only killed 2 things with my bow. I've only killed these 2 deer. When I shot this year, he was at 20 yards, and so it was like just kind of instant, but it was that same
Yeah.
like when that
Oh
arrow
yeah.
hit that deer, I was like, oh, that's the same sound. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
same
Oh
sound.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, dude. It's wild, and that you only get from being close. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yep.
It's but what was it's unique to archery, and that's why I think people can tend to get obsessed with it. Also, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I love guiding archery hunts for the exact same reason. They can be very frustrating for all the reasons that they're frustrating
Yeah.
to I'm sure you and everybody else too, but that just getting so close is freaking cool.
Yeah.
But awesome, man. I think we covered a bunch, Nate. I appreciate it, dude. I'll have to have you on because just getting into the whole humor thing would be fun. You do a damn good job, man. And I'm trying to pinpoint what it is. I think it's just all this. It's like it's funny, but it's also relatable. And there's all these like you kind of have inside jokes that are not they're broad to all hunters.
Yeah.
When you execute on them, like people laugh at them. So, dude, I'm happy for you on all your momentum and stuff. Where can people follow you, dude?
Yeah, so Nate Illingsworth on Instagram, or Nate_Illingsworth. And then I have a podcast. It's called Just the Nip. Just the Nate Illingsworth podcast, what it stands for.
Love it.
And then I'm starting the YouTube thing. So I've got some videos rolling out. I'm going to be doing a video with the Archery Country guys, doing a bow setup and stuff. So
Nice.
yeah. And that's just Nate
Down in
Illingsworth too.
you're going down in Austin?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. And then
Cool.
hopefully I'll do some hunting while I'm down there too. So kill a couple
Cool,
more
man.
deer with the bow.
That's awesome, dude. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I've been a fan for a long time, so I was super stoked that you wanted to have me on.
Yeah, of course, dude. That's cool. Thanks, dude. See you
Yep,
later.
we'll talk to you later.
If you enjoyed this content, do me a huge favor. Subscribe on whatever platform you consume it on. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever works for you guys. Everything else is on my website, pursuitwithcliff.com. Go there and it's going to be very apparent to you that I work my ass off just to not have a real job. All the hunts I guide, all the seminars I put on, all the unique experiences I offer, and the membership site, all the details are there.